Yes.
Okay, we are starting because we were chatting so much. I was like, oh crap. We should have just recorded it. But welcome to Devoted to a Soldier resource panel tonight. It is about marriage after retirement, military, marriage after your children are leaving the nest, and all the stuff that goes along with that. And with me is James and Brandy. How are you guys?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having us.
And where are you, I should say?
We are in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Roll Tide for all my folks out there.
Yeah.
We are in the heart of a mile and a half from the university. In fact, today we went and did some drone shots, and I was kind of in the restricted zone on campus, so it landed for me too soon. So we had to get out of there.
It landed for you.
Yeah. We got a little bit of footage, so it was good.
Yeah.
It was good.
It was good. But tell the world who doesn't know about you, who you are, and why I was like, hey, where are you? Because you never know where James and Brandy are going to be, or Brandy and James.
Sure. So recently, I'm retired military, of course. And I just retired again from my second job in September. We decided, after a lot of praying and just feeling it was the right thing that God was telling us to do, go do what you guys want to go do, go travel the road. So we bought a travel trailer and a pickup and took off with our 2 teenagers, our 3 dogs, and just kind of went from there.
Yeah,
so
we've been winging it ever since, but faith driven, and it's been really amazing to see how it's unfolded into what it's unfolded.
Yeah.
I like to watch. I follow you guys in your group, so click on it, people, and in the post and follow them, because you don't know. And actually, what I found is, even though my kids are grown, sometimes I'm like, oh, I remember those days, because sometimes I'm thinking I'm a terrible mom. Like, I look at my past with my children and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should have done that. I should have done this. Like, I'm missing that. And then you remind me, I'm like, oh yeah, we did do stuff. Like, so it's actually helps me not feel like such a bad mom. It brings back memories. Because I think I only remember the pain and suffering.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's good you said that. We're going to kind of touch on that in a minute.
Yeah, well, I think it's great that you bring that up, because even in a moment of taking your kids and doing something that's out of the norm and making them see something different, they're teenagers. They're still going to be teenagers, so they're going to hate it. They're going to hate you on days. Like, you're going to think, even doing this, I've had so many moments where I'm like, I'm such a bad mom. What have I done? So it is crazy that you say that, because it doesn't matter what you do. You're going to feel that way. Yeah. So the only thing that you can change is the way you're thinking every morning. Yeah.
Right. Change the one common denominator, which is this right here. All of this. All right, so before we get to the kid part, we got to get to the couple piece of it. So I want to dig into like retirement, and I want to dig into the difference in your opinion, because this stuff fascinates me, and I haven't talked about it. Retiring from the military opposed to, because obviously that means X amount of years more, right? Then when you just do your like 4 years, 6 years, 10 years, and you get out. I look from the outside, I'm like, oh, there's a difference. There's a difference. And the man that I've seen come out, and it's all been men. Sorry, women, I know that you're retired too, but I've never met a retired woman, so I can't speak on that. So tell me your opinion from both of your perspectives of that.
Well, so first, I kind of want to set the stage just so everybody understands where we're coming from. I met Brandy after I retired for the military, but she had to deal with all the baggage that I carried with me in those time frames. Guys, our dogs are going crazy right now.
Jacob, hold on. Jacob, open the door so the dogs can go in with you. Go in with
Get out of here, dude.
Go to your brother's room. That's right there.
Come here.
Oh, and your sister's room. Okay. So I met James the year he retired. The year. Like, we met online. We were on online dating, and he was retiring from the Army, and I had never experienced Army life. So I was brand new to it all.
Yeah.
So continue.
So it was kind of like, it was definitely catch up for Brandy on a lot of things, you know?
Yeah.
And thank God she just kind of accepted, like, when I was just spitting out acronyms left and right, I didn't know how to speak to civilians so they fully understood. So that helped me kind of start that learning, that curve for me to kind of assimilate a little bit more. But to go back and answer your question real quick, to me, I think the biggest thing is, and this was just when I was going through my transition piece, is I noticed the guys or the soldiers that had, maybe they were first termers, especially first termers, maybe second termers. They just they were still young in their mind. They were thinking that, you know, every day they could just do whatever they wanted. They weren't realizing they were wasting precious time of their lives to get their lives going. So I think, you know, we had some groups that we had to work with. So we had retired guys, we had guys who were first termers, and the first termers would just say, you know, we were working on little workshops or whatever. And the majority of the guys that we worked with, they said, well, I just don't care. I want to go hang out in my mom and dad's basement for a month or two. You know, so it's hard for guys for like, I got to pay attention to this stuff. I know, for lack of a better word, I've been institutionalized for 20 years. Right. And I've got to pay attention to this. You guys, you're a younger generation. You kind of know what's going on a little bit more and everything else too. So from the giddy up, I feel like we're behind the curve when it goes to transition.
Yeah. From my standpoint, it took me a minute to probably grasp. And honestly, when I say a minute, it took us years, I think, to figure out, like, really full circle about his retirement. But I kept telling him things like, you cannot go into civilian life talking to people like that. You're gonna get it, like someone's gonna pull a gun on you. You know, like he would get these civilian jobs, and you cannot, there is no way that you can say that what any civilian job is going to uphold to what he did, or what any retired full term, like 20 years, there's nothing that's going to compare to it. And so to have to deal with civilians instead of soldiers every day and those kind of things, I could tell he was struggling.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to dive too deep into this, but I was also carrying baggage. You know, I was an alcoholic, which, by the way, I got to give a shout out. Tomorrow, tomorrow I'm sober a year. So
the shout out for a second.
So you know, I was carrying stuff with me that I was still trying to figure out who I was. And to be quite honest with you, it's taken me, when I retired in 2013, it's taken me up to this point to let positive traits, personality traits of myself come back out, because I fought them for so long, because I wasn't strong enough to be like, well, I'm a team guy, but I can be empathetic. You know what I mean? I just turned it off.
Right.
So it took me a long time to come back to that.
I wonder if maybe, Brandy, because you met him after that, I don't want to use the word easy, because I know it wasn't easy, but there was nothing to compare it to. Right? I think a lot of times in a relationship, when you compare your current relationship to what it was, and that can create obviously extremely more tension, instead of you just took it in like, okay, this is it. This is the man I love, with all of the crap and the pieces with it. And there was nothing to compare it to.
Yeah. And I think that was definitely a positive thing, because it didn't matter what it was before. I didn't have anything to compare it to. And it was like, we're just going to focus on the future. You know what I mean? And because we met when we did, I tell him all the time, if we would have met back then, it wouldn't probably.
I would have messed it up.
Yeah. Well, he always says he would have messed it up. But I think anytime you go through other relationships, it's just like life. You always take lessons from them. And we both had previous relationships, obviously. And if you're going in as an adult, a grown adult, you know that everybody has past baggage. You have to learn to accept that and just go in fresh and start right where you're at. So yeah, we met right when it was the perfect time for us.
Well, God, okay, your dogs must be sending energy to my dog because she's like back and
forth. Sorry.
I would love to be all day. Like, what?
They're being crazy.
But yeah, no, it's just being perfectly placed. I'm a huge believer that God perfectly places people in the time, and that there are some people that are meant to be perfectly placed for the rest of their life. And then there's some people that are supposed to be in for a moment and be a tool of moving. But so now, because I want to get stuck here, because I'll get stuck right here. We will not continue on.
Good job. Let's go.
Is what connection do you think of going through your retirement, all of that we just talked about, and then you have kids that are about to leave or do leave? I feel that there could be similarities in emotions that come up.
Oh, yeah. So I'll take this one.
Okay.
Because when I deployed, anyone that I was close to, my family or whatever, I would shut down on them. A month in from me going, I was shutting down. I was already, my mind was downrange already. I was thinking about the job, and that's all I was thinking about. I hate to say this, right? I mean, like earlier, like we talked about, I think every parent has, like, we question ourselves, did we do a good enough job? Right. That answer is always going to be no. Just because we don't give ourselves enough grace. But for me, I was letting my fears shut myself down from my daughter, who's going to college. Like, straight up, you know, she would come in, I would grab my computer and log on and start looking at whatever, you know, just to, it was easier for me to shut down than to deal with the situation. Because I was hurt. I was happy for her. I was nervous, terrified, you know, all that stuff. So, and honestly, I just, like, the other day got over it.
Yeah. Well, it took us a minute because, you know, we only
I have to say this. And I was making fun of her for months before this. Like, oh, this is easy for me.
Crying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to say that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, I think you were just, how come it always has to be that way?
I'm telling you. But I kind of think that
it was crazy because I was so upset. We only have one leaving so far. So you know, it's like, in fact, we just had a moment happen today. We have still both at home. Our daughter leaves for college this semester, but through this experience, she's been leaving us. She's been able, since she's doing school from home, her senior year, to leave us and go spend time with friends and family. So she's been leaving us for months at a time. And so I've been having, and I think it's definitely God's way of, like, getting me ready for her to be gone for a longer period of time. And so I've been sad, and I'm like, does every woman feel this way? Am I the only one that is so sad about this? Like, we're supposed to be happy, but I'm not happy. I'm miserable, you know? So, and then he was all like, I'm ready for her to leave, blah, blah, blah.
100%.
He was acting all weird when she was coming back around. And I'm like, why are you acting all weird now? And finally, once I was like, okay, I've got to change my mindset. I've got to think of it differently. I can't keep allowing myself to let her be the only thing that's bringing me happiness. Her, not just her personally. Of course, your kids bring you happiness all the time, but her being with me, her needing me 24/7. It's such a hard thing to cut off, you know, like, here, have this baby, do everything in your power that you have to do for them, and then stop.
Well, it doesn't stop. So get ready.
Well, that's the thing. Yes, it changes. And that's what I wasn't allowing myself to think about. I wasn't thinking about the relationship growing and changing into a different relationship. I was just thinking about that chapter stopping. And
Right.
I think for him, it was the same thing. So I was like, we have to stop thinking of that. Like, this is good. And it's still going to be stressful at times. Like, they're still going to want a ton of money.
Or call you like, my dentist isn't taking my insurance anymore. You think I should call the insurance company? Yes.
Yeah.
That was a phone call I had today. Right? Good idea.
Yep, that's the right decision. Go for it.
Yeah. But I think as parents, and maybe it's the same. See, this is where I think the connection is. You stop having faith in yourself and the strength in yourself, and you focus on the unknown of everything.
Yes.
And so it's always this big, and you don't give yourself enough credit to be like, okay, I did X amount of years in this career, really good, and I can take those skills and apply them differently. And I raised a good son or daughter for 18 or 19 years. They're going to take those skills and they're just going to apply it differently. And we get stuck in ourselves and we don't embrace them.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
I love that. Yeah, for
100%.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does get easier because I cried when Jacob went off to boot camp. Like, oh, not because I was not proud or what. I just missed him. I was like, I just missed him. Yeah. And when the baby, left in August, Brett, I hope you're not listening. I was like, you got this, dude.
That's what I was going to say. That's the moment that happened today because we both have them with us. And so Madeline is fixing to leave. Jacob just got his driver's permit and he's driving all four of us in her car, which it's really our car, but it's her car.
Yeah.
So he's driving and she's like miserable. And she's like, well, if I would have done that, you would have made me get out and not let me drive anymore. And I'm like, well, we've learned from you to be more calm with him. Mm-hmm. She's like, don't do that. Yeah. But you do learn from one. So I am grateful for that. And I think this experience, that's what I meant at the beginning of our conversation about how this experience, watching it grow, just me personally, watching it grow, James has been amazing because he's grown a lot before we did this, but we did a lot of journeying around his Army career. Mm-hmm. And because we did that path, I feel like he was able to go back, see some people, and open up a little bit of being more proud of himself.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're saying. Yeah. So I was able to go back to like my old unit for, 5th group and everything else. And it was kind of like, I don't know, it's therapeutic to go and close that chapter completely.
Right.
Because I wasn't fighting things that I held on for 5 years,
Right.
I mean, I remember the day Brandy told me, listen, we are not going to survive if you don't trying to solve this yourself. You've got to go get help. You've tried. I've watched you fight this for 5 years. Go get help. So, thank God for the VA and everybody that I had there, and they squared me up. But she was, I do think like, what if we had been together the whole time? Would she not have given me that much grace to give me 5 years? Because that's a 20-year military wife, that's a hard gig.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
So, I just kind of wonder, like, I don't know. You'll wonder whatever, but I guess it all comes down to God knows well more than we do.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I want to, as we're like kind of closing here, I want to talk about, you have these rituals that you do every day, right? That you start your day off with, and they've been the same. They've morphed and changed, right? Retired. You guys are now on this venture, which we can all join, and you have kids, and now you have one that's going to be leaving soon. So what do you do? There's got to be something. Like, I have my thing that I do every morning for myself, but I'm a big believer that you have to have a mission with your spouse, hence my whole book, what it's about, like creating a mission statement with your spouse. Because what do you do when you get off mission? If you had nothing to go on, right?
Yeah.
You're just chaos. And you guys brought up, I want you to talk about that book real quick before we go off, and the change it did in you, and actually, especially how you did it alone, and you were like, I don't want to do this out loud together. And that transition, because you got to get into these these new things when something's ripped from you, or whether it's ripped or it's a choice of change, right? You have to replace it with something.
Sure.
Exactly.
So, do you remember when we bought these?
I feel like
it just because, right?
Well, yeah, I think we just found them on Amazon and we bought them just because. And I bet we've had them for probably about 4 years.
We have. So I don't know if you can see both, but it's 31 prayers for my wife, and then 31 prayers for my husband. It's the husband and wife couple that wrote it. I think their names are Aaron and Jennifer Smith. We haven't never met them, but we love this book.
Yeah.
So what it is, it's exactly that. It's a little bit of scripture and then 31 prayers that you go through. And then, there's some little things on the notes where you can make a personalized prayer if you want to. There's some challenges through it and stuff like that. And we have been doing this every morning for each other.
Away from each other. Of course, when we first got the books, it was James went to work in the mornings. I was at home working. So he took the book to work. He would do it on his desk, at work. I would do it at home. It was what it was. And since we've been on the road, we have time to sit down together in the mornings. And most of that time is quiet, but we have these 2 books, and then we have a marriage devotional that we read every morning together. So a little bit of that time is together. Most of that morning time is quiet. Anyway, James, so we were reading these books silently, even at the beginning of this trip, still silently. James is a very a loud prayer. Like he's very good at it. He's good with his words. I am not as confident in myself when I speak aloud, which is crazy because I really like to talk. Now that I say that, but
I'm with you in that same thing. So I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's like if you're like saying, I need you to do this, I'm like, so he said at the beginning of the year, let's go ahead and read a prayer each day aloud to one another. I mean, we've read through this book a ton of times to ourselves. I was like, I don't really think that's going to make a difference. I don't really think we need to do that, And he's like, of course, like he's like, it's okay if you don't want to do it, it's fine. And then, of course, then God's like, the next morning, he's like,
Brandy,
that stinking God,
you should probably read this book aloud. And I was just like, oh, okay, Lord. Okay. So I was like, let's go ahead and read these books aloud to each other. And we've been doing it for over a month now.
Oh, yeah.
And it has made a huge difference in our days, I think.
Well, here's the thing, right? This is going to sound corny, but it is legit real. I realize how much this woman loves me and has my back more than ever because of what she's praying for me every day.
And it's kind of crazy because we've read these prayers a million times, but it's like you're reading it every time for the first time when you're reading it aloud to your spouse.
Yeah.
It's kind of deep. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I can visualize that and experience that because when you speak out loud to yourself, it is more impactful than just hearing it in your brain. So I totally can see that.
100%.
Weirdly making a change, like you think it's not going to, but actually the impact of it. Yeah,
and it's crazy that just that little bit of fear, because really it's not that big of a deal. It wasn't like something I was like petrified of doing, reading aloud to him, but I had just a tiny bit of fear about it. And it was just this little change that I was like, is it really going to make that big of an impact? Yeah. And it surprised me at as big of an impact as it made.
Well, and I think too, when you read it, you're just kind of going, sometimes you go through the motions on stuff. But, when you're being challenged,
that's true.
Because yesterday's was help me to be a better listener. And you have a problem listening because all you want to do is reply because you're always right. This guy right here, right? The next day, you realize this is a precious moment. Yeah. Pay the freak attention and spend time with your wife.
Yeah. I love that. And I feel that during this now transition of your daughter leaving, that was perfectly placed time.
Yeah. grew us.
have this connection of the two of you grow.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. See, it's those little things, like our daughter said the other day, I just counted and I've driven through 13 states. And I'm like, isn't that incredible? Because she had been in a car accident with a friend driving, and she was nervous about driving. And that has just opened her up. And it's just those little things that you find more grace in them.
Mm-hmm.
So
definitely.
Keep going. The dog wants you.
I'm all about it. So we're gonna close up here for a second, but I have to say, February 12th, if your travels find you in Columbia,
yes, we're trying.
You're good. There's a bunch of people that are probably gonna harass you to come back. But it's there. But I want to close with this. She said yes. Michelle Baxter will be.
Yes, I know. Michelle's gonna be
that. But no, I want to ask this last question. It's not the love question. It's a different question for you, if you can both answer it. But what does devoted mean to you?
First word that came to my mind is faithfulness. And then if you just want one word, to me, it's faithfulness. And then just loving unconditionally, being devoted.
This is going to sound weird, but like the verb of stick, just to stick, just to hang on, no matter what.
Yeah. That's a good one. That is a good one. What did someone, and isn't it funny? So I was up last night and I was praying about this thing in my mind, and I woke up to a text message from the person saying, stay with me. And that's stick just came to me about so yeah.
I guess it's the chills.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You guys are amazing. Every time I talk to you, my heart is filled. I love what you're doing. I cannot wait. This is part 2. So we're going to come back on for part 3 because there's so many places in conversation I need to go with you. So everybody out there, wait for part 3. We won't know where they are. Maybe it'll be live in Tennessee. I don't know. I keep you never know. But thank you guys again. Everyone, follow their journey. The link is right there. Super easy to click and join their group and reach out to them that way. And to everyone, join a table. I always say, whatever table it is, join one. Whether it's one other person or 50 other people, it doesn't matter.
Thanks for having us.
Yes,
you are so welcome. Take care, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.